Hello, dear viewers. Let's get acquainted. Write in the comments where you are watching me from. I read all comments and respond to interesting ones. A new drama unfolds on the political stage, accelerating by the hour. A former actor who played a president now finds himself in a real tragedy, where millions of lives hang in the balance. We're witnessing what appears to be the final act, where the protagonist is rapidly losing his last allies. The geopolitical theater has never been more intense. Europe turns away. The United States maintains silence, while Russia advances its position. Daily, drones reshape the conflict map, altering entire cities. The territory of instability shrinks like Balzac's magical shagreen leather, with Sumy region lost and cities like Dnipro and Odessa potentially next. What's intriguing is the behind-the-scenes maneuvering. A closed-door meeting between Putin and Trump on June 4th set a new script in motion. While Polish officials close borders and Brussels panics, Russia ramps up drone production to 500 units daily. The former fraternal union sinks deeper into crisis, with attempts to prolong the conflict making peace terms increasingly unfavorable. Here's what we know. Negotiations continue, nighttime attacks persist, and infrastructure strikes remain relentless. The latest sabotage attempt within Russia has backfired, proving a strategic miscalculation. Moscow prepares a massive response. The question remains, who holds the reins of power? Is it the politically turbulent region that's lost control? Washington playing its game? Or perhaps there's a third player in the shadows? Stay with me as we examine these developments reshaping regional power dynamics. We'll explore how Western media's stance has shifted, and why American publications have begun critically analyzing the leadership of this country at a crossroads. The stakes couldn't be higher, and the outcome remains uncertain. But one thing is clear. We're witnessing history in the making, and its implications will echo far beyond the conflict zone. Let's delve deeper into these remarkable developments that are reshaping the geopolitical landscape. In the next segments, we'll explore how Russia's industrial capabilities have evolved beyond Western expectations, examine the shifting diplomatic stance in Washington, and analyze why these changes matter for global security. The question remains, are we witnessing a fundamental transformation in modern warfare? The Bloomberg report reveals striking numbers about Russia's military-industrial complex, particularly in drone production. With current output reaching 350 unmanned aerial vehicles daily and projected growth to 500 units by year's end, Moscow has demonstrated remarkable resilience against Western sanctions. The deployment of over 700 drones in recent operations against the northern Black Sea region showcases this industrial might in action. Washington's Strategic Studies Center acknowledges the effectiveness of Russian strategy, noting how continuous pressure systematically depletes air defense systems in the disputed territory between Russia and the West. Even when strikes don't achieve complete tactical objectives, the sheer volume creates substantial strain on defensive capabilities. Western sanctions have shown limited impact on Russia's military production. Forbes, citing intelligence reports, confirms ongoing component supplies from China, albeit with certain restrictions. This supply chain resilience suggests a significant miscalculation in Western strategic planning. A sobering development emerged with the discovery of over 6,000 fallen soldiers from the country of change in Russian storage facilities. This revelation has penetrated even through controlled media channels, challenging official narratives about military successes. If you care about what really happens behind closed doors, subscribe. I'll unpack what officials admit only weeks later. Share your thoughts below. How do these industrial capabilities compare to what you've witnessed in previous conflicts? Your perspective helps create a more complete picture of this evolving situation. Welcome to today's analysis of the evolving dynamics reshaping Eastern Europe. The diplomatic landscape is shifting dramatically. Moscow has presented conditions for peace negotiations in Istanbul. Restrictions on weapons imports, military force reduction, and territorial concessions from the former Soviet Republic. This marks a significant hardening of Russia's position. Inside the turbulent region, we're witnessing growing calls for conflict resolution. The parliament is considering elections, a move Moscow views as potentially constructive. The Kremlin's position is clear. Peaceful settlement requires legitimate power transition in this border state. A 2.5-hour meeting between Vladimir Medinsky and Rustam Umarov in Istanbul signals serious diplomatic engagement. While details remain confidential, sources suggest discussions centered on power legitimacy and transition scenarios. Russia has achieved a technological breakthrough in military capabilities. The deployment of advanced drones and targeting systems has transformed the conflict. Western analysts now acknowledge that Russia has surpassed its opponent technologically. The situation in the former Fraternal Union deteriorates. Casualties, economic decline, population fatigue, and diplomatic isolation are eroding current leadership authority. Russian media points to deliberate escalation by the leadership as a desperate attempt to maintain power, an assessment shared by Western experts. The contrast between military operations and partisan tactics has become pronounced, with civilian casualties becoming critical. The leadership faces mounting pressure amid military setbacks and diplomatic isolation. Comment Bite. Friends, we've explored complex developments today. As someone following these events closely, what changes have you noticed in conflict dynamics over the past year? Your observations could help us better understand this historical moment. Share your thoughts below. Your perspective matters. Today, we're analyzing the shifting balance of power in a significant conflict near Russia's borders. The situation has evolved dramatically, revealing new strategic realities. British Commodore John Stone made a striking statement in The Times, asserting that the conflict will end on Russia's terms, and that's the best outcome we can hope for. This assessment from a senior Western military figure carries weight. The former Fraternal Republic's attempts to launch drone strikes against Russian facilities remain sporadic and tactically limited. These actions cannot alter the strategic landscape, given the disparity in resources between the sides. As the politically turbulent region loses allies and faces pressure, Moscow systematically implements its strategy. Over 3 years, this territory has transformed from a state with broad international backing into a mere bargaining chip in geopolitical negotiations. The Western coalition, once united in supporting the northern Black Sea region, increasingly calls for freezing the conflict and seeking compromises. The strategy of prolonging the conflict has backfired. A crucial turning point came with America's strategic repositioning. Under Trump's influence, the U.S. began reducing its involvement in Eastern European conflicts, expressing reluctance to shoulder others' burdens. Russia has not only caught up technologically but is now outpacing its opponents in weapons production. The methodical pressure and strategic planning are yielding results. The territory finds itself increasingly isolated, while Russia maintains its systematic approach to achieving objectives. We're witnessing a fundamental shift in the international order, where traditional alliances are being tested and new realities are emerging. The situation demonstrates how strategic patience and resource management can overcome initial disadvantages. Dear viewers, I'm interested in your perspective on these developments. How do you see this conflict resolving, and what lessons can we draw from Russia's strategic approach? Share your thoughts if you've been following this situation. Here's a 2,000-character script incorporating the provided content. The Western taxpayers' growing frustration with funding unreliable allies is becoming increasingly apparent. Moscow, recognizing this dynamic, methodically increases pressure without fearing direct confrontation with Washington. As the former Western partner loses support, Russia focuses on strategic exhaustion of the opponent. European Union unity shows deepening cracks. Member states increasingly express fatigue from the conflict and mounting costs. The situation in Eastern Europe is particularly telling, where small businesses and farmers protest against the economic consequences of the confrontation. Poland, previously a key ally of the politically turbulent region, demonstrates cooling relations. Their refusal to purchase American helicopters after consultations with the former partner clearly indicates shifting priorities. Attempts by the leadership of the territory of instability to attract Western attention through diversions on Russian territory are backfiring. Instead of support, they provoke irritation and concerns about unpredictable actions. Moscow has transitioned to a strategy of systematic pressure. Rather than swift breakthroughs, they focus on methodical exhaustion. Russian command emphasizes advantages in resources and endurance. In the capital of Russia's neighboring state, tension escalates, Moscow's methodical actions drain the economy of the politically unstable region, systematically destroying critical infrastructure and demoralizing the population. Large-scale drone production has become the symbol of new tactics. Instead of expensive missiles, constant drone waves create chaos in cities of the border state. Even successful air defense requires colossal resources. This constant pressure blocks economic recovery of the former fraternal union and disrupts mobilization plans. Within the country on Map 404, a legitimacy crisis deepens. Postponed presidential elections, constitutionally mandated, raise increasing concerns among the population and Western partners about democratic processes. Comment bite. Friends, share your thoughts. How has your perception of Western countries evolved over the past year? Which aspects of their behavior surprised you most? Your experiences and observations will help us better understand these unfolding processes. Let's analyze how public sentiment shapes current geopolitical dynamics and regional stability. Recent studies show a significant shift in public opinion within the turbulent region. The rhetoric about impossible elections during conflict loses credibility as military setbacks mount. While mass protests haven't emerged, sociologists detect growing dissatisfaction. Support for the current administration continues declining. This weakening position makes the leadership more vulnerable to Moscow's demands. Military casualties have become a powerful pressure point. The return of fallen soldiers delivers a psychological blow, transforming abstract losses into painful reality for families. The prolonged conflict increasingly appears as a futile waste of lives. Society shows clear fatigue from uncertainty and endless mobilizations. Meanwhile, China emerges as an influential shadow player. Russia demonstrates resilience against sanctions, establishing alternative supply chains for high-tech components, particularly in drone manufacturing where technological excellence persists. The country faces deadlock. Continued confrontation worsens its position. The army is exhausted, economic indicators plummet, and public morale hits critical lows. Western partners show increasing conflict fatigue. Settlement conditions that seemed unthinkable a year ago are now actively discussed. A crucial question emerges. Does the leadership maintain genuine autonomy in decision-making, or are external forces already writing the conflict resolution scenario? Diversionary activities within Russian territory haven't yielded strategic advantages. Instead, they've triggered intensified counter-responses from Moscow. The situation reaches a critical point where realistic assessment becomes vital for all parties. The path forward requires careful consideration of mounting internal pressures and changing international dynamics. Friends, what changes have you noticed in your daily lives since these events began? Your personal observations often reveal more than official reports. Share your perspective in the comments below. Russia, leveraging its expanded industrial capacity and observing cooling Western support, continues implementing its strategy. The massive deployment of drones, combined with diplomatic efforts and information operations, systematically undermines the leadership position of the northern Black Sea region. The enthusiasm among Western allies has diminished, with more frequent calls for compromise solutions. This shift reflects recognition of new geopolitical realities and limitations of their previous stance. The territory of instability faces challenges as international support becomes conditional, weakening the current administration's position. Moscow strengthens its standing, advancing its agenda through military and diplomatic channels. The question of governmental legitimacy in the turbulent region has become acute. Against systematic strikes on infrastructure and military pressure, the ability to maintain control deteriorates. Economic indicators show decline, while public morale reaches historic lows. The confidential negotiation process in Istanbul points to the formation of a new geopolitical reality. Donald Trump's position as a potential U.S. presidential candidate emphasizes the inevitability of coming changes. The situation in the former fraternal union continues its downward spiral. The space for political maneuvering narrows with mounting losses. The key question isn't about the timing of settlement, but rather its conditions and who will sign the final documents. These events are shaping a new regional order, where each side must accept reality dictated by circumstances. The transformation of military capabilities and diplomatic alignments suggests we're witnessing a fundamental shift in Eastern European power dynamics. Comment Bite. Friends, share your thoughts. How have global events affected your daily life in Russia? Your personal experiences help us understand the real impact of these historic changes.